Coming up on show 691, we'll take a look back at Tesla's wild week with the highs and the not-so-lows. Plus, we're talking about GM's new modular EV platform, a Renault Zoe with hundreds of thousands of kilometres on the clock and still going strong, and some in-depth reviews that I've been going through. The Volvo XC40 is a new plug-in hybrid that gets a long drive, and why you should charge your plug-in hybrids. Well, those stories and many more coming up on the podcast today. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. I've been saying that for almost 700 shows now. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to EV News Daily. For Saturday the 8th of February, Martyn Lee here going through every EV story to save you time. Well, thank you to myev.com and congratulations to the team, the founding team at myev.com. They were some of the guests today at Basecamp Miami, a big meetup on the East Coast, and some of the biggest YouTubers out there as well. Big stars of the Tesla community and the EV community. It was called EVs and Tea. If you went along, I'd love to hear from you. Love to see your pictures as well. Make sure you're using the hashtag EVsandT on Twitter and I'll retweet you as well. So General Motors has unveiled an updated electric vehicle roadmap earlier this week, originally shown back in 2017. Well, the latest roadmap is largely unchanged except for the addition of an upcoming electric pickup truck. Yes, we know it's not too surprising because we talked about it earlier in the week. The GMC badged Hummer EV is going to be fully introduced on May the 20th later this year, and it'll go on sale at the end of 2021, reports CarScoops. They say that GM confirmed the first vehicle to ride on the all-new EV platform is going to be a crossover. So not a full-on SUV, but a very popular crossover style, a bit like the Model Y, and it's going to be from Cadillac. And as CarScoops told us earlier this month, it's going to use the same architecture that underpins the Cruise Origin. Well, GM teased a modular EV platform. The company didn't say too much about it, but they did note that it allows for large footprints and a lower height. It's also going to feature an all-new battery system, which has a higher energy density and a high-power DC fast charging capability. And that is all to be applauded, but all pretty standard stuff for EVs coming in 2021. So basically, the 2022 model year, so a couple of years away, something that has a higher energy density that's around at the moment, something that charges very quickly. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but it kind of expected. So well done, GM. I'm taking nothing away from you. The unknowns are still many, though. What can we expect? What sort of range can we expect? You would think 300 miles is going to be a ballpark figure for any new EV coming in 2022. The CEO, Mary Barra, has previously described the distance as being a sweet spot. 300 miles being the sweet spot. And she noted that the Bolt isn't too far from that, as the Bolt does, well, near as damn it, 260 miles. That's 417 kilometres. But 300 miles, almost 500 Ks on a single charge. Otherwise, you're just carrying around a lot of battery for what? 1 or 2 very long road trips? I mean, look, there's always going to be... You and I have met them. You and I have met the people that when they find out we drive an EV or we tell somebody how great an EV is, they'll say, well, until I can drive 1,000 miles with my 14 children, 8 dogs and 2 horses and not stop once, I'm never buying an EV. We've all met those people, and frankly, they should carry on driving fossil cars until they are crazy expensive. Let them be the last ones to move to EV. They will, eventually. They will. We know they will. Hey, what a week it's been. It's been a wild week for Tesla. Every so often I get notes from people saying, why aren't you talking about so-and-so subject? But this week I have had a lot of emails and contact via social from people saying, why are you not talking about Tesla's rising stock price? One of those things that I just don't go big on the financials. Congratulations. If you are a Tesla shareholder, I hope you made some money this week. It's not that it doesn't interest me. I am, of course, interested because a higher stock price, a higher valuation gives people confidence. It makes the people who are sitting on the fence, and understandably, I think that is the mainstream. The people are going, look, Tesla is still, am I going to buy a Ford or a VW or a Tesla? Well, those that don't know what you and I know might be thinking, look, I want to make sure I can service this car in 3 or 5 years. I read these things about, bankruptcy and stuff, all the FUD that's out there. So people naturally are cautious with their own money, second biggest purchase people make behind their house. And so, a greater stock price, more security. This is all good for EVs. But in terms of up a pound, down a pound, up a dollar, down a dollar, I should say, it's not that it doesn't interest me. It's that I'm sorry to those people that want to hear me talk about it. It's just, it's all in my tiny brain, it's all a big game. It's just all people who put their own money into Tesla and then are awake all night because the price went up a bit or down a bit, or they're worried, they're high, they're low. It's all too much for me. It's all too much for me. I can't be doing single stocks. I'm not saying don't invest. I'm just saying it's a wild ride. And if you're on the roller coaster, more power to you. But I couldn't do it. My nerves couldn't do it. But what a week it's been. It began on Monday earlier this week with a 20% increase to $780 a share. That was followed by a 17% price spike on Tuesday, sending prices almost to $1,000. Year to date, that's a 170% increase in the share price and a quadrupling since the low of $178 back in June. all those months ago, back in June last summer. Says Forbes, even after the 17% correction on Wednesday, they're still up 71% over the year, sitting at $750-ish at the time of writing and recording. Tesla's now overtaken Volkswagen, General Motors, Daimler and Ford as the world's biggest automakers, only behind Toyota now in market capitalization. About half of the nation's EVs are located in California, and that's where you're going to see plenty of Teslas driving around, and plenty of people who invest in Tesla as well. And I hope if that's you, you've had a great week. I hope you don't mind the roller coaster. Lots of people, but went down almost 20% in a day. Imagine if you'd put, 10 grand into it and it went down almost 20% in a day. I mean, how to lose $2,000 in a day? Hey, my nerves couldn't do it, but more power to you. If you are in Tesla for the long term, I hope you're okay this week. I hope it's been a wild ride. I hope you're still smiling, and I hope you don't mind me not talking about it every single day, because I don't mind at the end of the week reflecting back on the week that the week that it's been, and looking back at what it means as well. It means for EVs. Well, EV adoption is one of those things that's really driving battery technology, and one of the reasons why. I do get plenty of feedback, and I do get plenty of people saying that I'm a Tesla fanboy. But one of the reasons why it is good news when Tesla do well, because they're so far down the rabbit hole of battery technology. And battery investment as well. That leads to better battery performance and reduced costs. Average market prices for battery packs have plunged in the last 10 years from $1,100 per kilowatt hour in 2010 to, at last count, $156 per kilowatt hour in 2019. That's an 87% fall in real terms, according to Bloomberg. Elon saying on stage not so long ago that they are around about $100 per kilowatt hour at cell level. That is to make one single cylindrical cell. Of course, you have to put that into modules and then make it into battery packs with inverters and all the cooling and things like that. And they're not. He said they weren't at $100 per kilowatt hour at battery pack level, but they were heading towards it. Of course, in April, we're going to get Battery Day from Tesla, and I'm really looking forward to that, because it's one of those things that, whilst there are many dedicated battery companies around the world, those big ones that we talk about all the time, SK and LG, CATL and the rest, Panasonic, of course, then Tesla are not only so far into battery development, we know that they love to, sorry to use this management phrase, vertically integrate. So if they could, we know that Tesla would be making everything, because they like to make it as efficient as possible. They currently get the batteries in from Panasonic, but it wouldn't be surprising at a point in time for Tesla to be their own cell maker. And because of that, I think it does a couple of things. It forces everybody else forward. And no doubt there is some incredible work going on behind closed lab doors all around the world right now. But also because at the moment, Tesla are the ones with the biggest insight on behaviour and charging patterns. Because of the hundreds of thousands of cars that are on the road, they do have access to exactly all the information that maybe the battery companies don't have. They know exactly what people are doing, how people are using their batteries. And over the years, they've learned so much that with every over-the-air update, it just gets better and better, and that's one of the unique advantages. So, look, I'm no fanboy, as it were. I haven't got one in the driveway, and I'm not banging on about my referral code or the things that I've won for free over the years on referral codes, but I do very much talk about them probably more, no, definitely, I would say definitely more than any other car maker, just because they're so important. Okay, let's talk about, well, the car that I own, the Renault Zoe. A car that maybe you don't see much on the roads because it's only really a European car. An all-electric Renault Zoe that did an impressive 345,000 kilometres as a taxi in Turkey has now had a YouTube video made about it, caught our attention this week. I mean, certainly it's done a long distance, 345,000 kilometres in a pretty hot country in Turkey, but because of how good a condition the battery is in. According to thedriven.io, have a listen to this. In an interesting video shared by the Renault Zoe Owners Club, or rather the Renault ZE official Owners Club, the gang there know probably more about Zoes than anybody else apart from the people that actually make them. Looking at the reports from Craig, Tong and the guys this week from the club, a Turkish YouTuber called Erdem made a video of his Zoe taxi that's done 345,000 kilometres, and the battery is going strong. Plugging in an OBD2 device, which allows access to the battery data via a smartphone app called CanZE. The 2017 Renault Zoe had a 96% state of health. Wow! And a 41 kilowatt hour usable capacity from an original 52 kilowatt hours. And I didn't realise that. This is what the article says anyway. And one of those things that you think you know a lot about the car that you drive, but I didn't think that the overall battery pack was that big on the Zoe. Need to go do my homework a bit more. I thought usable was about 39 in the Zoe. Anyway, that's amazing. 96% state of health. Even if it was 80%, but it's not. It's almost 100%. 345,000 kilometres. Admittedly, we don't know how it's been charged. It could have been slow charged every night, so no rapid charging. It could have been run down to, maybe 20% and then gone up to 80% every night, so not really using the extremes. We don't know, but either way, these kind of stories are exactly what you and I need to bear in mind when we meet someone that says, well, my battery on my mobile phone, my iPhone battery was knackered after 2 years, and cars are the same, they're all going to go to landfill. These kind of examples are just exactly what we need to highlight in a respectful way to people and say, oh, well, look, here's an example and here's an example, and, Teslas that have done 500,000 miles and the batteries are still in great shape. And so, yes, recycling is very important, big issue as well, but I love these stories. Some long reads to read this weekend. The Volvo XC40 Recharge is a new plug-in hybrid from Volvo, and it completes the Swedish firm's goal of offering a plug-in version of every model in its lineup, and it's the first Volvo to use the new Recharge branding, says James Atwood at Autocar. While Volvo's other plug-in models are built on a SPA architecture, featuring the electric motor driving the rear wheels, the new XC40 is all combined up the front. It twins a 3-cylinder 1.5-litre engine with a mounted electric motor, and that powers the front wheels. Both motors go through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox, very clever stuff. And unlike other plug-ins, the XC40 therefore has a ton of boot space because none of it is taken up with all of the stuff that a plug-in hybrid normally needs, the batteries and things. The XC40 does accelerate away, though, on smooth electric power, so being a plug-in hybrid is unmistakable. The reason the boot is unaffected is because under that bonnet at the front of the car, the whole powertrain is located, with the 3-cylinder engine kicking out 170 brake horsepower, another 80 from the motor, and the electric unit has a 10.7 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery. That's in the central tunnel of the car, and so you're going to get 31 miles of electric only running. It's a long read. Go and have a look at Autocar's article if you'd like to read more. Another long read is coming today from a website, thenational.ae, looking at how efficiency tests are done. The official miles per gallon efficiency tests. Well, studies have shown that hybrid cars, particularly plug-in hybrid cars with a combustion engine, could actually produce 3 times more carbon dioxide than the official numbers suggest and use 3 times more fuel than the official numbers say. Studies by the UK's Emissions Analytics and a 2018 academic study that was done back in Norway a couple of years ago. Both of those reports show that tests performed on plug-in hybrid vehicles don't take into account real-world driving habits, reports the national.ae website. They found drivers were far more likely to neglect to charge their cars than the laboratory testing took into account. Combined with the fact that the cars have a short range when they're fully charged, drivers were often failing to use the battery to its full extent, if at all. In effect, many vehicles were therefore in real life emitting more gas and using more fuel than if those owners had just bought a normal combustion engined car because of the extra weight of the big battery. Nick Molden, the chief executive and founder of Emissions Analytics, told The National the problem was not of companies misleading the public, but that these companies are legally required to carry out tests in lab settings. Well, paultan.org website said that a study conducted by the Miles consultancy, that's a fuel management firm, found that vehicles produced by BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Mitsubishi and Volkswagen often returned fuel consumption figures 3 times higher than advertised. In a study of 187 regularly charged BMW plug-ins, when they were audited, the average fuel economy was 42 miles to the gallon. The claimed figure is 137. Well, experts like Paul Hollick, he's the managing director of the Miles consultancy, questioned whether plug-in hybrid cars have ever seen a charging cable. Many of them, by the way, don't come with a charging cable. And that's one of the reasons why, along with certain incentives for people to get them as company cars, until recently at least, in a lot of cases, he says, we see plug-in hybrids never being charged. Doing longer drives is not a good fit for these kind of users. The UK's most popular electrified plug-in hybrid car is the Mitsubishi Outlander, but Emissions Analytics boss Nick Molden said the problem is the official figures are so sensitive to the assumptions about how plug-in hybrids are driven and charged, or rather, not. The lab tests assume the battery's always full, but of course the real world is a very different thing. If you don't get a cable with the car and you don't want to spend a couple of £100 buying an AC cable, you may never charge the thing, and therefore you're just carrying around so much extra weight. Nothing wrong. I should always say nothing wrong with the plug-in hybrid car, but please use it fit for purpose. And if you're never going to plug the thing in, just get an efficient petrol or diesel car and be done with it. Okay, we're moving on. And 2 US lawmakers earlier this week on Thursday unveiled legislation that would create a nationwide electric vehicle charging network to promote the shift from gas-powered vehicles to reduce gas emissions, says Reuters. The Democratic representatives Andy Levin and AOC released legislation called the EV Freedom Act to create a network of high-speed charging stations within 5 years along public roads of the national highway system in the US. At a press conference this week, the 18-page bill reviewed by Reuters notes a lack of charging stations poses a significant barrier to higher electric vehicle sales. Levin said creating a new fleet of charging stations nationwide will be expensive, but create good-paying jobs. A separate bill introduced this week by the Representative Yvette Clarke and others would focus on increasing access to EV charging stations, particularly in low-income and disadvantaged communities. Former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg, for instance, as part of his campaign, requires all new cars by 2035 to be electric. And his proposal is to build a highway charging network with at least a recharger every 50 miles or 80 Ks. So, that's the news for today. Quick reminder of question of the week for Sunday's show. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, how much does the environment come into your love of driving an EV? And if you don't yet, then when you do finally buy one, you can email me anytime about anything. hello@evnewsdaily.com. Thank you to 231 patrons of the podcast. Your generosity means this show gets made for the thousands of people that listen around the world. We are approaching 2 million downloads of this podcast, by the way. Wow. It seems 5 minutes ago I was saying 1 million, and that number blew my mind, but such is the speed at which the show is growing and more people are interested in EVs, and I swear some of it's got to do with how you share I can see people sharing this podcast online. Yeah, we're not far off. I'll let you know the day it happens. I'm keeping an eye on it. 2 million downloads of this show, and thank you for all of the ones that are yours. There are 690 shows in the archive. Show 700. I'm looking forward to that. If you can, possibly share the show with someone who might be interested, please pass it on. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. Catch you tomorrow, and remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.